Hey guys, I'm Mr. Steve. Welcome to the channel. Make sure to ring that bell, smash that subscribe and that like button, and I'm going to show you how to build a better build modifier in geometry nodes, and it has a ton of uses. Let's get started. Come on in. Alright, so this should be a lot of fun. Let's go ahead and do a vertical split. Pull up a geo workspace right here. I'll press T to get rid of the end panel, so I've got a lot of room. Drop in pretty much anything you want and click new, and let's get a new node graph. And go ahead and delete the group input because we're not going to need it. Let's put in a UV sphere in the geometry nodes workspace, and we can tag that in. Now let's drop in a UV sphere over here as well. Now we can take this sphere and just kind of move it back a touch because we're going to be using this one as a proximity based on raycasting to kind of blast the geometry off of this one and kind of create a better build modifier. And so it's not a hassle. Let's grab our geo UV sphere and let's pin this workspace. Now we can first start off by putting an instance on points, and we'll do a distribute on points too. Distribute points on faces. Now we can grab a icosphere, and that or any other object that you want can be the part of the raycast that actually rebuilds as it goes, and so you can put whatever you want. So I'm just going to put in an icosphere right here, and I'm going to put the radius to 0.03 and tag that into the instance on points. So we've got something like this. Now we can bring the density up just a touch, won't hurt anything, and let's go ahead and bring in our raycast node. And the raycast node is going to pretty much direct traffic for us. So we're actually going to take the isHit and we're going to plug that into the selection of the distribute points on faces. We're also going to plug that into the selection of the instance on points. Now everything disappeared except our OBJ, so let's go ahead and grab that and let's drag that in so we have some target geometry to work with. Now you can plug this in just as it is. You see we already have some sort of reaction going on, and let's click relative so that way as this is kind of live updating and moving our new build modifier around, it will show up for us. And we don't have a lot of control between these two, so what we can do is we can put in a scale elements right here, and this is going to give us some actual control on where the rays are actually hitting on the mesh. Okay, see we have a little bit more of reaction there, but still not quite what we're looking for. All right, so now we can actually bring in a join geometry. Okay, and we're going to put that in right after the instance on points, and we can tag in our original geometry so that now shows up. So right here, after the instance on points, let's go ahead and put in a set position node. And this is going to take the position of the proximity of our actual proximity object. So we're going to pull this out, and we can just type in proximity to get a proximity target for this. Now, in order to control this properly, I'm going to pull out a scale. And this will come out vector because we're pulling out a vector. And now you can just simply tag this vector scale into the offset here. And now we want the set position to also react with the raycast. We can pull the isHit out, and we can also tag that in to the selection on the set geometry on the set position node. And now we do have control here to kind of move this around, but it's still not quite where we want it, so we're going to have to make a couple of changes. And it looks like I may have put that in the wrong spot. So let's cut that out. Cut out our OG geometry. Let's plug that back in to the set position and the set position back in. There we go. That's the beginning of what we need right there. So as we're moving this back and forth, we can see that the raycast is starting to take over and kind of blast the geometry off. And We want that exactly, but we want it controlled and nice and clean, just like the build modifier would do for us. And so one of the things we can actually do is we can throw in a delete geometry. So let's throw in the delete geometry, and you can just tag it in right here, and it's basically going to delete everything. And we're putting that right after our main UV sphere. And so what we have to do is we need to select the delete geometry off of the is hit. So in other words, all the geometry that's getting blasted off is going to be deleted immediately. And so now we get this very nice, very clean reaction. Now, right between the delete geometry and the UV sphere, let's put in a subdivision surface. Yeah, there we go. And that'll kind of clean up the edges, and you can bring the levels up a couple times. It's not going to hurt anything because this is pretty low on resources. So if I went ahead and moved this back and forth, you know, you're getting like no lag here, or you shouldn't anyways. If you do, bring your subdivision levels down just a little bit. Now I also want this to be set shade smooth. I know somebody's probably going to shoot me for that, but it does clean it up a little bit more so you don't see the intersections of the geometry. Let me see if I can make that more pronounced so it's exceptionally visible. Yeah, so you can see the breakup right there in the geometry. And if we shade smooth, we get a perfect surface. It's very nice. All right, so that looks good. I think I'll just go with something like that for now. That looks good. Let's see, you got cavity on. Not going to see too much. Okay, so the density now could be brought up to whatever you want. You can put it on possible on disk if you want these to be not clipping in a manner of speaking, and they'll attempt, according to this distance, which like 0.03 or something should give you enough. And there's a little clipping there, so maybe 0.05. That way, if you don't have like a perfect setup here, like your geometry is not what you want, it won't be clipping through. And you can also bring the radius down on the icosphere instances, 0.005 or something like that, and then bring the density up a good bit. I left mine on random and just kind of ramp everything up, so it looks pretty good. That's pretty cool. So now we've actually got a pretty stable reaction and a pretty cool build modifier. Now I would like to see a little bit different reactions. So the scale elements here, we can make this a little more fine-tuned if we want, and we can also play around with the raycast settings. And if you want, you can get in the raycast node area, and you can bring the raycast length down all the way to 0 and then hold shift and just bring it up a little bit so you have just a little bit of a break, and you can get a number of different patterns here if you just want to rip a line through the geometry in so manner of speaking, or do something like that. Also, if you want to add a little bit more of a cool effect, the subdivision surface modifier can do that. So we can bring up the vertex crease here and kind of add a little bump to that, a little bit more realism, whatever you want to do with it. I think you get kind of like one or the other, but that looks pretty cool. I'll come back with another part because I'm going to kind of play with this. I just kind of came up with this on the fly and wanted to share with everybody. And in case you're new to geometry nodes, make sure to subscribe, smash that notification bell, and I will have this available. You can just go grab it for 0 on my Gumroad, and I've got some other add-ons as well that would definitely help out in your workflows. If you're... All right, guys, one last little quick thing, and I'm just going to hide this stuff. This works really, really well on flat surfaces. You can play around with it and get it on curved surfaces, but it's a little bit better like on a hard surface model. So if I just jump into edit mode with this, I'm going to subdivide this like 2 or 3 times, no big deal. And I'm going to apply the CellSim node group to this, which I came up with. This little add-on I call Cracks. I put it on the Blender Market, and I'll go ahead and append that in, and instantly you'll see that you've got some cracks. Now it defaults to the Voronoi, so if you're to move the Voronoi around, you can kind of change the fracture and how it looks. Then you can just simply apply the cut. then you can append in yet another one, and we can choose regular noise this time. The offset should be set to 0.01 if you want like perfection, and then the fragments set to 1. So we set the fragments to 1. That looks pretty good. And then you kind of play around with the noise. And if you're new, appreciate you guys watching. See you in the next one. Happy blending. I went ahead and deleted that one, and I'm going to pull up a timeline and show you the true power of doing this with automation and simulation, because that's what's backing this. So if I apply a cell sim to this, and then I come down here and maybe bring the frame rate down, all within the add-on, I will actually have to create a save point for this. So I'll just use whatever name and save it. Then the bake cell sim will pop up, and then I can bake it. And it's baking out right now. It doesn't take too long. It's a lot faster than, you know, like a water simulation or something. All right, so now that's baked. It'll jump back to 1, and you'll see that it will explode and fracture via the simulation. And of course, all of this is 100%, well, it's not going to be changed after you bake it. You have to rebake it. But all of this is 100% changeable. So if I was to 0.01 on that, bring my fragments to 1, which is a much more correct thing. And the fragments you can always kind of change. And then if I want to delete that and rebake it, I could. And just simply delete that bake and then rebake the cell sim. And now that's kind of like the check fragments allows you to split everything apart and then put it back. And it should stay at 1. It probably comes in at like 0.7 by default, but that's okay. We're almost done baking. I would pause the video, but I think it's going to jump to the end here in just a quick second. All right, maybe not. I'll pause the video. There we go. So then you can get different results each time. So that's it, guys. See y'all in the next one. Appreciate you watching. Ring that bell, smash that subscribe button, and go pick up that add-on. I'll put a link down below. See you guys in the next one.